Alrighty. I think we'll get going. So, hello everybody. It's great to be with you all today. Thank you for taking the time to join us this afternoon or this morning, wherever it is you're joining us from. And welcome to the webinar, which is titled Managing Portfolios and Capacity. See the whole story across Jira. We're absolutely thrilled to have you all join us. My name is Danny. I'm Partnership and Marketing Manager with Hero Coders. I'm going to start by giving you a very quick overview of the session and let you know what you can expect from us during the webinar. Our aim today and the expectations we want to set early is that we're going to provide you with a practical, interactive, and hopefully very informative session. And here's how we're going to break it down. So in just a moment, I'm going to hand things over to Claire, who's going to give a quick overview of Hero Coders, who we are and how we can help you. Part two will run as a panel discussion with Claire putting the questions to Kasia and Alex about some of the main challenges and pain points, such as not having full and clear views when you need it, working out of spreadsheets, stakeholder friction, and a general lack of team visibility when it comes to managing portfolios and capacity in Jira. So these are some of the pain points that we'll be discussing in part two. And then we'll finish up with audience Q&A. So please use the Zoom chat or the Q&A box, which you can find at the bottom of your screen. Anytime a question comes to mind, throw it in there and we'll answer all of those in part three of the webinar today. We are live today, but if you are watching this back on demand, feel free to leave your questions in the comments and we'll follow up with you as soon as we can. So who do we have on the panel today? I'll hand things over to each panelist so they can introduce themselves. But while they do, please do say hello in the comments yourselves and let us know where you're joining us from today. And Kasia, perhaps I'll start with you and you can let us know who you are and tell us a little about
Sure.
yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kasia Karska, and I'm the head of product at Hero Coders. I joined the business over 3 years ago. On a daily basis, I'm managing two products, Clockwork Pro and also Portfolio by Hero Coders, which we'll be talking about today. Nice to meet you, everyone.
And my name is Alex Ortiz. I'm the CEO of ApeTech and also the co-host of the Jira Life. And I love using the Atlassian tools and doing all things Atlassian and training folks on how to use the Atlassian tools. So I'm just happy to be here and happy to talk about a topic that I'm really profoundly in love with, which is portfolio and program management. So really exciting stuff.
Hi everyone, I'm Claire. I'm the head of marketing and partnerships at Hero Coders. I've been in the Atlassian ecosystem now for coming up to 3 years. Team Anaheim will be, I believe, my third team. And so I work closely with our customers and partners to make sure that our suite of products, portfolio, clockwork, and checklists are solving real problems for people managing portfolios and capacity in Jira. And so today I'm going to give you a quick overview of who we are, what we're about, and why it should matter to you. So looking forward to getting into this session with you all. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Superb. And do share any comments, thoughts in the chat and the Q&A box as and when they come to mind. Like I said, we will spend some time at the end and throughout the webinar today answering any questions that you've got. One final thing before I hand things over to Claire. On the next slide, we want some help to tailor the conversation today. So I'm going to launch a quick poll. And if you could kindly share your thoughts with us and what you're most interested in improving right now. And we can perhaps talk about that a little bit later on. And while you're going ahead and answering that, Claire, I'll hand over the mic to you and you can get us started.
Great. Thanks, Danny. So yeah, great to have you all here with us again today. So a little bit about who Hero Coders is, and we'll keep it nice and short. Hero Coders is an Atlassian Platinum Marketplace partner. We build Jira native apps that are used by teams all over the world. And our focus is simple. We help teams to plan, track, and execute work clearly inside Jira, and especially as things scale. We have more than 70,000 customers around the world, millions of users, and tens of thousands of product installs inside the Atlassian marketplace. Many enterprise teams rely on our apps every single day, often without even realizing it. Now, most people probably know Hero Coders through our flagship product, Checklist for Jira. It is one of the most widely used apps in Jira, and it helps teams to standardize work, reduce errors, and bring consistency to delivery. Chances are many of you are already using it. There's three versions of the Checklists app, Free, Pro, and Enterprise, and it's trusted by 50,000 customers across the globe. And in fact, fun fact, the free version is among the top three most installed apps in the marketplace. But what many people don't necessarily realize is that checklist is just one part of what we do. So we want to tell you a little bit more about one of our products today, Portfolio, and we want to show you how our full product suite, checklists, clockwork, and portfolio can support you and your clients with planning, tracking, and execution. So it's one product suite with three clear outcomes. Portfolio helps teams to plan, Clockwork helps teams to track, and Checklists helps teams to execute. Individually, each one is very powerful, but together they work even better. We know enterprise teams care deeply about security, reliability, and support, and so we are proudly SOC 2 Type 2 compliant, fully Jira native, and customers really do trust our fast hands-on customer support. And they don't just adopt our apps, it really is fair to say that they stick with them. I'm not going to read these out, but these quotes do reflect what we hear consistently, which is less noise, clearer workflows, and reliable tracking and responsive support. So we know that these are the kinds of outcomes that you and your team really do care about. So we're going to get into it now with myself, Katja, and Alex, and we're going to start off just getting into some of the whys before we get into the whats and the hows. So I wanted to start with a question for you today, Katja, which is, we're going to talk about the portfolio and capacity planning that people are doing, but can you tell us about, what are some of the problems that people are facing that prompts them to need this type of solution?
I think the biggest problem is the visibility of what the team is working on, what is the progress of the project portfolio. Are people available to actually start some new work coming in? I think these are the most important ones.
So, Alex, I know that sorry, go ahead, Katja.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Alex about the same because he works a lot with Jira customers, so maybe he can also point out some of the problems he is noticing.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of the same with what you just mentioned, right, Kasha? It's like the alignment and managing expectations and managing communication is usually a big problem point, right? Where if you're not careful, things can spiral out of control real quickly, and the more you can over communicate, the better.
And Alex, you've used some of these types of tools in the past. What are some of the problems that you've encountered personally when you've been, managing portfolios or working inside Jira systems in the past?
Yeah, so a couple of different things that come to mind. One is price, right? Some of these, like especially native solutions within the world of Atlassian, it causes you to go from one more affordable version of Jira to a much more expensive version of Jira. Others, they just require a lot of heavy lifting with respect to getting started, knowing how to use the interface, knowing what all the different buttons do. And I'm sure we're going to get into it throughout the webinar here today, but I'll call out some of like the key features that I like that I think make this a little bit easier for folks.
Great. And what in your opinion are also some of the costs of not solving it, not fixing it? So without that 360 view, what are teams actually missing out on?
That could be pretty detrimental, and that's not an exaggeration. When you are assuming things in a fast-paced world, especially the one that we live in, where AI is pushing everybody so quickly in so many different directions, not being coordinated means you could potentially go down a rabbit hole, as we like to say here in the States, where you essentially go deep into an assumption and you surface out a couple of days later, realizing you went in the completely wrong direction, costing thousands and thousands of dollars and missed budgets and schedules. And now you have to rework a lot of stuff. So it's pretty detrimental and expensive when you realize, if and when you realize that you've gone the wrong way based off of an assumption.
Right.
It can also cost you your customers' trust, right? Because if you don't deliver the work on time, it can affect the relationship with your customers.
Absolutely.
Great. So things like fragmented data, no clear view across projects, friction among reporting into key stakeholders, dependency management and misalignment. These are all of the types of things that people are challenged with when they don't have the right solution in place. So let's jump into Portfolio by Hero Coders, Kasia. Maybe you can walk us through sort of a high level view of what to expect if people were using the tool.
Yeah, sure. If you could just stop sharing your screen and I'll just start sharing mine. Okay. So I think the most important part of our tool is the portfolio view, where you can basically select which projects, which issues you want to see, and track and also manage it in line within this view. So whenever you install the app, you can basically create a portfolio. And you can start doing it by using filters to look for stuff that is already in your Jira. So you can start straight away with the work that it's already there, or you can build your portfolio from scratch from here. But let's use the filters. So here you can see we have some manual and JQL filters. You can specify which projects you want to see. For example, this one and this one. But you can also add some additional issues from other projects, or exclude some assignees or some issue types. For example, if you don't want to see the bugs, you want to see maybe just initiatives, epics, and traditional stories. You can also define which timeline you want to focus on. So for example, task for the next Q2, for example. So
And
here
a
we can
real
select it.
quick call out here, real quick. Sorry
Mhm.
to interrupt, but I just want to drive this point home here, folks. When you are adding your multiple spaces or projects, this is usually where you hit the first limitation of Jira natively. Because while Jira is not going to complain, it's going to let you pull in two or more projects together. When you want to go use the timeline or you want to do something effective with it, it's going to tell you, no, sorry, you got to upgrade. You got to go to the premium version of Jira. And so being able to do this at a more affordable cost, I think is a huge benefit.
Yeah. And for a more advanced search, you can use a JQL query. So you can be very specific for what you are looking for. And once you apply that, actually, let me switch to a portfolio that I already set up, because it's going to just show up all the various fields that we present here. Here's the portfolio, and it's actually the table view. So you can pull out all of the work items that your portfolio should include and see whatever fields you would like to actually see, because you can add columns like Jira fields, custom fields from Jira, but also portfolio offers their own insights like calculated end date, which will show you forecasted end date of an initiative. Or for example, time in status, if you want to see things, how much time they have spent in progress. Or for example, some budgeting fields, and so on. Here you can also switch between other views, and I think that can be interesting for a lot of us, because you can see the whole hierarchy of issues within your portfolio and then see the progress and see which one of them actually already started. You can also look at the tree map to see a representation of the various statuses and how many issues are in each of them, or a pie chart and drill down to see how many of the tasks within the hierarchy are actually in to-do, in progress, or done.
And Alex, I know that you spent some time using Portfolio by Hero Coders recently, and you mentioned that you haven't come across these types of views before in any other tool.
Correct. Yeah. Not only that, but also the columns, the auto calculations are huge because in Jira, you got to kind of hack your way through an automation rule and or figure out a clever way of coming up with these formulas, and it's just not easily feasible. And so a combination of those custom fields plus that special view, I think it's very important and helps teams that maybe like some people like me, I'm a little bit more visual. So looking at things in a table view like this is cool, but having it in a different view, I think it just makes it a little bit more easier to digest and understand what you're looking at.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so here you can pull out a lot of fields. One of the interesting ones are, for example, the alerts. So you can track basically whether there is a risk of not delivering a task within a hierarchy on time, or for example, if when the assignee is not available to actually perform the work. So you can predict any potential risk on each of the work items and in each of the hierarchies you might have in your portfolio.
And Kasia, obviously this is all happening in real time, which again is one of the advantages with a tool like Portfolio by Hero Coders, where you're not working with stale static data, right? So when you get a risk alert, it's going to update in real time and have that flow down effect.
Exactly. Additionally, Portfolio is built in Forge and it completely runs on Atlassian. So whenever you do any updates within this view, for example, update the start date, let's say, or for example, change the priorities, it will automatically be visible in other places in Jira because the data is fully kept on Atlassian and not outside of it.
Yeah, and if I can double click on that part too, right? So the built on Forge is very, very important. It's a direction that Atlassian wants all marketplace apps to go into. But from a governance and due diligence perspective, especially as companies are looking to bring a new application into their ecosystem, there's usually a lot of hoops they have to jump through in order to get an app approved. But because all this stuff is built on Atlassian, you're trusting the due diligence that Atlassian has already done, and you've already onboarded Jira, Confluence, and the like into your organization. So being able to piggyback off of that approval, and it makes it just a lot easier for companies to bring in a tool that is built on Atlassian using Forge.
Exactly. Here you can also present the data in a way you want. So you can, for example, group this data to show, for example, at first projects and then the hierarchy within those projects. So for example, group by assignees, and then you'll see the whole structure adjusted, and you can save this view and then share it with your leadership team or with your team that you work with. And also you can give permissions to people to also be editors of this view. So you can work, for example, as myself and Claire, some time ago, we created a view for ourselves to track our product and marketing activities in the same view to make it aligned. So this is very helpful. And then also there is a Gantt chart where you can visually represent the tasks and actually also create dependencies between those tasks, set up lag times, and make sure that whenever one task gets delayed, the other task that is dependent will also be rescheduled. So you'll see the real-time data inside this view.
And
And this
Kasia, I
part
think
is
it's
very
worth
huge.
mentioning.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Alex, you jump in.
This part is one of the best advantages of this too, because natively, even if you're on the premium version of Jira and you're using plans, you don't get to change your dependency type. And so if you don't mind clicking on that so folks can see the different options,
Yeah.
uh, you just don't get this, right? And this is a very, very, very important feature that comes over from a traditional project management world that we just simply can't even emulate or replicate in any way that I've tried to do creatively in plans. So this is huge. And then the lag is huge as well, right? Because sometimes there's you build some buffers into your schedule and it just you can't do it natively. But
Yeah,
but
and
project managers expect it.
exactly. But it also helps to actually understand how one piece of work can affect the other one. So I think that's really helpful too.
And Kasia, I was
Um,
just going to mention that I think it's worth noting that we have created two editions of the app.
yeah, there's a standard one and the advanced one. The standard one doesn't have this Gantt chart view, but more or less it covers all the major features that we'll be talking about.
And so people who are interested specifically in the Gantt view will be able to access that through the advanced edition of the app.
Exactly. But we also have tiers for up to 10 users, which are free. So you can actually check them out. I mean, the standard version is free up to 10 users. So I recommend checking it. So yeah, you can save this view and it will be always available for you at hand whenever you navigate to the Portfolios tab. You can create actually multiple views. It doesn't have to be for a whole portfolio of projects. It can be for a single project. It can be for 2 projects or 10 projects. And you can also create a view that will serve you mostly in terms of scheduling the work and another one that will be more focused on budgeting as for example, in Portfolio, straight away you can plan budgets, but if you additionally use our time tracking and cost tracking solution Clockwork Pro, you can also track the actuals. So how much actually cost has been spent on a work item, or for example, how much revenue work item should generate. And you can compare this data within this view, which is really helpful in terms of managing also budgets and understanding, do we overburn the budget or are we still on track? Which initiatives are actually more important versus which gives us more money? I think that's also a very important point here.
And so one of the key advantages here, Kasia, really is that you're not having to sort of mentally recalculate any sort of downstream impacts. Portfolio is doing it for you, basically, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of insights you can add into this view. Like I mentioned previously, time and status. You can also create custom formulas. So that's very helpful. But most of those fields that you see here are out of the box available. So you don't have to really create any of those calculations within the app.
Which is very huge because at the portfolio level, I have so many executives asking for just these points exactly. And I'm usually floundering trying to come up with a good solution or a good answer to tell them I can't do it, right? It's not possible. And so this just covers so many bases and makes it all in one unified view. Huge advantage for like your executives.
Yeah, and additionally, in this view, it's not only for reporting purposes and sharing the data with your stakeholders, but you can actually it's actionable. So you can click on items and update in bulk. You can do inline edits. So it's not like just a dashboard. It's something that you can actually work on, and the data is live in Jira. Uh, should we talk more about capacity planning?
Yeah,
Alex.
I was going to set this one up with basically the fact that Alex, you will know better than anybody really that this is one of the toughest areas for people to get right, right? Is to manage not only what you want to do and to plan for what you want to do, but having the people and the resources in place to bring it to life.
Yeah. Yeah, because this view that we're looking at does a really great job at answering the what should be built or what are we working on. But really we have the who, the when, the why, everything else that it will kind of come in together. And so the capacity part is going to help us significantly with who's available, who can do what, and we'll get into some more details in a second here, but definitely an integral part, right? It's not just knowing what tasks and when they need to be done, but who's going to be doing them. And beyond just the assignee, as we're going to get
And
into
in
some of the
addition to that, having
technicalities there.
that full sort of company-wide view of how it's all going to fit together, because you may be very well aware of what's happening in your space, but if in the next space they have no visibility of what's going on and what people you're pulling in, then that's where you're going to run
Mhm.
into problems, and you're going to have to
Yeah.
start doing some, trade-offs in the future as well.
And then Atlassian does offer some solutions for this too, right? So, but we've already kind of talked about it. So to get this view, especially with the Gantt view, you're looking at premium versions of Jira minimum, right? So you're on a very, very expensive version at that point. And then if you wanted to have those costs and if you want to have that resource management, Atlassian wants you to be on their strategy collection, which I've always joked around, but you kind of need to donate a kidney and your next unborn child just to be able to afford that part. So it's a very, very expensive offering from Atlassian just to be able to get the views that we're going to be looking at here.
We don't ask for any kidneys.
You can keep your kidneys and your next unborn
It-
child.
And also, what I think is worth to mention that portfolio actually very well integrates both the scheduling the delivery of those multiple projects with capacity planning across the whole organization, not only within a single space. So let me show you a little bit about capacity, and I think we can start with the capacity alert because this is the point where you see that something is going on and you probably should reschedule something on reassign, reassess basically what's happening. So let's click on this little alert. And what portfolio will do for you, it will take you to the capacity planner view, pre-filtered to the person who was assigned to the task. And now I can see exactly what this person is working on and what's the booked capacity. And what it means, the book capacity. So basically, whatever estimate you put on your task, and then you have a start and due date on the task, this is also configurable in Portfolio. You can set up which dates should be taken into consideration for the planning piece. But basically, you create a booking, and it shows up in Capacity Planner. And now what we can do, we can pull in some Jira groups or specific users or portfolio-specific teams, which you can create inside Portfolio. So for example, let's take those two. and then give it a name, for example, my team, and then save it. And you'll be able to make this assessment, like who can actually take this work. And I can see that Jen has some spare capacity in that time. And maybe she can start it even earlier so that it won't be going over 8 hours per day. And what I can do, I can just double click and change the assignee here. Oh, sorry, I will have to change it to another one because I think I deactivated this one. But yeah, let's change to myself. And also I will maybe change this booking to start actually tomorrow to spread that work more evenly. And we can see that I'm still a little bit overbooked, but I can still adjust some of the items here, for example, to start earlier. You can see it will automatically, in a live way, adjust the data and the bookings, and I can decide what I want to do with it.
Yeah.
Another thing
And I
is
really
that,
love,
yeah,
I was gonna say, I really love the flexibility here, right? Because I used to have a chief engineer. She said, you never go to war without a plan. Even if the plan falls to pieces the moment you start, you always want to have a plan, right? You don't want to go into this portfolio planning not knowing where your resources are. And things are going to change, right? Things are going to change on you constantly. And having to fiddle around with Jira, trying to find the right button to move the times and estimates like that, it can get a little overwhelming. And so this is a very easy, very flexible, very visual way of seeing, okay, so here's all the tasks that belong to my team and team members, and like we can move things around, shift things around to just get it just right, tailor it to basically create a more, what I'll put in air quotes, more perfect plan.
exactly. So I just reassigned this task to Claire because I added her to the plan. So I saw that she had some spare capacity. What is also very important from here, it's not only presenting the view of multiple teams within a single screen, but here you can also open up this side panel and select whether a portfolio or look using JQL or the issue search, you can look for some work that it's not assigned yet. So I will open up the portfolio that we were looking at just a couple of minutes ago, and you can see that there are still some tasks that are unassigned and we should be assigning them to the team so we can decide whether we have capacity to actually perform this work or not. You can also in this screen see the split by teams, but also the capacity per day or weekly or monthly. So this also gives you the ability to assess, okay, are we able to take any more work or are we overloaded? Should we somehow address that? So that's very, very important, especially when you have multiple projects and there's a lot of stress. People just want to perform their work, but it's very difficult if they just get too much or some people get not enough. And the work isn't spread evenly.
Yeah.
And
And
Kasia, if people are not using this type of tool or they're using a different version of Jira, what in most cases are they using? Like, have you come across any sort of use cases where people have come across this tool and what were they doing before?
That's an interesting question, actually, because there's a lot of customers who are talking with us and asking us for demos of the product. And I usually ask them, okay, so what's the problem? What are you currently using? And many times, even recently, I just had a customer who is, it's a cosmetics company known worldwide. Um, and they were looking for a tool for their e-commerce team, which was quite big because it was around 200 users. So they've planned the work in Jira. But when I asked, okay, so how do you do capacity planning? They said that they are doing it in spreadsheets. So it's very difficult because you can't link the data from Jira with a spreadsheet. You can't always export the data. And whenever you change it in the spreadsheet, it's actually already outdated. So I think the fact that this is very much integrated with each other here in portfolio, it really helps in terms of planning and understanding the reality. Because you can like paper will take everything. You can make a perfect plan, but then if it's not possible to execute it, it just doesn't
yeah.
make sense.
And Claire, I'd love to add what's going on in the Jira world because there's two big things that come to my mind. Number one, most teams, when they are kind of doing some flavor or variant of trying to do capacity management, is usually at the backlog level when they're trying to plan their sprint. But you're so zoomed in on the micro because your backlogs are really designed for just one individual team and not a team of teams, right? It's not really catered for, like, I love what we're seeing on the screen here where we have PLC 7, PD2, MSAL 7 or 9. That implies three different boards, three different spaces in Jira, three different prioritizations that could be happening with three different scrum masters and three different project managers, right? Potentially. And so it makes the coordination a little bit harder because Jira is going to show you just the PLC work really, really
Hmm.
well. But the moment you have to work or have a shared resource across two or more different teams here, things get very messy in Jira and you just can't see it. And if you try to pull things in together and you're working on Scrum, then your sprints get contaminated and really bad things happen there. So the best practice is always not to cross-pollinate across different spaces and boards because you will contaminate your sprints and Jira doesn't like that at all. So the best practice is to just plan one team, one space at a time, one board at a time, which doesn't give you this bigger bird's eye view that we get here. And then if you're using plans, which is kind of the solution for like, okay, well, in plans, I can go and pull in different boards and not get any contamination. But the problem is that over there, it's really designed at the team level, not the individual contributor level. So you don't get to see what any one particular team member is working on, but you see the collective of the entire team. And
Hmm.
then the other last final complexity that I'll add is if you're not using story points, then none of what I just spoken about really matters because Jira won't do anything but story points. And so you have to be prescribed to a very specific way that Atlassian wants you to do it. Otherwise, you don't get it out of the box.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it
because you
gets
touched on something. Go ahead, Kasia.
sorry, it gets complicated when you use only story points because it actually doesn't account for people being off, for example, for public holidays or personal vacation. So portfolio, for example, is solving that but by having those personal vacation and holiday calendars.
Can
So
you
you
show us
actually
how they
see,
work, Kasia?
yeah, sure.
And just while
Just
you're getting that set up, Alex, you just touched on something there that I thought was really important, which is that in large organizations, it's very common for there to be shared resources across teams, right? So you'll have a shared designer or shared other roles. So that becomes really difficult when you can't then see another team has already booked their time.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's very frustrating, and that's where we start leading to a lot of assumptions where you think you have the full resource, but you don't, and so you task them at capacity, at least with the theoretical capacity you think they have, only to find out, and you always find out like the right before the things due, right? When it's too late, that oh, they were actually working on somebody else's work because some other manager, some other executive had tasked them, and you just weren't aware of it. And this is where we start getting into our scheduling conflicts.
Yeah. So this is the place where any individual can actually add their vacation or sick days. And in the settings of portfolio, you can actually define those individual vacation allowance, but also holiday calendars for public holidays. So whenever you are in the capacity planner, the estimate of the task and the dates will not assign any hours to the day where the person is off. So the calculations are very exact, and you see actually when the person really is able to perform the work. So here you can see, for example, the weekends. Claire has a setup in portfolio where she's working from Monday to Friday, 8 hours. So it will calculate this capacity based on those individual settings.
So really, it not only allows you to plan your capacity, but it also allows you to protect that capacity to ensure that your project is going to be successful.
Yeah, additionally, in settings, we can define users' roles and skills, which can be very helpful, especially if you want to predict if you have teams capacity on a project that is not confirmed yet. So it might be that it doesn't exist in Jira yet. You don't have the tasks created and so on. And you just want to create some resource requests, so basically some placeholders for roles and the estimates on how much of their work will be needed. So let me just show you one of the examples. This is one of my projects. I have some estimate. I have only one work item assigned here, but I don't have to have it from the start. I can just have a rough estimate, start and end date, the required role, the skills, and then whenever there's time when we need to create the project, we want to check the team's availability, we just click on assign and we see who has this role and those skills. And actually in that time, it's not really possible to start this project. We would have to postpone it or adjust the schedule to make it work. And I think this is very important because it helps you predict, see whether your future demand actually meets your abilities.
Mhm.
Maybe some of the projects or initiatives can be prioritized because, I don't know, they are much more important or they bring you much more revenue. So this helps you really see the future and predict what to do and how to plan accordingly.
And the best part is you don't have to assume things anymore.
That's very important, yeah.
Kasia, I wanted to ask who is this tool most suited to? What types of roles, what types of teams, what size roles, what size companies?
That's a really good question because, when we first started building this product, the assumption was that it will be mostly used by project manager officers, project managers, portfolio managers. But actually, I've seen, other teams using it, like marketing teams. There's been a manufacturing company that's been using it. Uh, we're using it ourselves, right? And we are a product company, a SaaS product company. And it really helps to link the work, for example, that we do together, right? The marketing team and the product team. So really seeing how that, for example, development work affect our marketing activities. That's very important, right? Because you can predict, Claire and Danny, where actually some work needs to happen on your side. So I think that's a tool that can be used by all types of teams and sizes, really. But I think the most scalable way how it helps in terms of reducing the time to, like reporting and figuring stuff out, probably like bigger teams will profit from it the
And
most.
there's no limit to the number of projects that you can pull in, right?
I think there is just a limit that the Jira actually imposed itself, and I think it's about 10,000 work items within a single portfolio view. So still, this is a huge amount of work. I don't think anyone is working on 10,000 tasks at the same time. It's probably it would have a be it will
You
have to
would be
be a robot.
surprised. You would be surprised. I've seen people and teams try. I mean, jokes aside, but I jumped in with teams had so one thing to call out is in plans, you do have a ceiling of 5,000 work items. So you cannot have more than 5,000 stories and tasks and epics and initiatives inside of your plan. And so many teams that I will run into, they hit those limits. So there's a lot of people working on a lot of different tasks in parallel.
Mhm.
That's
One of the other
interesting.
things I think is worth talking about, Kasia, is the simplicity of setting this up, right? So there are other tools out there in the ecosystem that, would be well known, but many of the times that we hear from people doing demos or interested parties in
Mm.
this tool, they're looking for something that's easy to adopt, simple to learn, easy to roll out across their teams. And I know, Alex, you have tested it yourself, and I think you gave us a time amount of what it took you to actually get going and become productive.
Yeah, which was not days or weeks. It was more like minutes. I think that's a huge part, right? Because the comment that I've made in the past is as the project manager or the portfolio manager or the program manager, your eye on is like your goal, the target is to get the team across the finish line, right? And so you're focused on trying to get the team the resources, unblock them, get everything, all the ducks in a row so that you can accomplish that mission of getting the team across the finish line. And the last thing you want to do is investing time, energy, and effort into getting a tool to work for you so that you can
And money,
coordinate.
money too, right? There's
Yeah,
a
and
there's a hidden
money.
cost there too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a time cost and then there's a monetary cost of just, per month fees, but time is money. And yes, but you don't want to be making that investment because you literally have seconds, if not minutes, to make a very important decision on which tool is going to help you coordinate with your team. And you don't
Hmm.
want the team fighting, you don't want the tool fighting you. That's the
Hmm.
last thing that you want. And you don't want a tool that you need to go do trainings on, that you need to, do certification into, right? Like it overcomplicates things.
Exactly. Kashi, can you show us what it would look like to somebody, a first-time user coming in, and how they might start?
So yeah, you would have all of those tabs on the left-hand side whenever you install the app, both with the quick start guide, but also the portfolio capacity planners, vacations, and settings view. And because we have already some predefined settings, you don't even actually have to set up anything straight away. Um, by default, you can see there's booking start date and end date and what kind of time value should be taken to calculate the bookings, and also some defaults for hours per day and days of the week that people should work. You can set up some teams. You can add users' holidays and their personal working schedules. And then there are those roles and skills and holiday calendars for public holidays. So that's it. And whatever you have actually in your Jira right now in terms of tasks and projects, you just need to create a portfolio, define which projects or issues should fall into that, and that's it. Then you can do it within a couple of minutes, really.
And one of the point that I thought we should touch on is how we've mentioned during this conversation about the fact that our product suite goes beyond checklists into portfolio and clockwork. And how does portfolio speak to clockwork, for example, today? And what's the vision for how that might work going forward?
Yeah, so we are actually implementing more and more features that links the two products together so that people don't have to, for example, repeat the settings in both products for working hours and so on. But one of the things that we already have available is, of course, the time span that you can see and compare it with the original estimate, but also costs and revenue from actual work logs logged in Clockwork. So then you can compare the actuals with the planned revenue and cost and see the full visibility of your project budgeting. And then you can also create some custom formulas to, for example, calculate the margin or profit. So that's really helpful. And we'll be extending those capabilities even more in the future. So I hope that people that already use Clockwork will see the value in it in portfolio as well.
That means then you have your 360 cross-project portfolio view, you've got your capacity and resource request view, and then you've also got your budget and financial view all wrapped up in one.
Exactly, exactly. That's the goal.
Brilliant. Um, we intentionally priced this product when we released it to the market. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Kasia?
Yeah, so at first we weren't expecting that such big teams will want to use this product, but as we noticed that a lot of people were testing it with huge teams, we took the decision to actually put a very fair price to it, because with bigger teams and the Jira seat-based pricing, it would just cost a lot for each of those companies to buy such tool, and we didn't want them to have this kind of additional cost to it.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's been priced, I think, very fairly. It's not that expensive, so each team size can actually use it and can afford it.
I think the research that we've done has shown that it's up to 9 to 10 times more cost effective than some of the other sort of well-known tools, comparable tools in the marketplace. So a clear saving there. And then obviously, as Alex has touched on as well, if you were to go the Jira Premium route, you could be looking at doubling your Jira bill, really.
And still making significant sacrifices and
Yes,
compromises.
and still not necessarily getting what you need. Exactly. Um, so I think that's all of it from our side. Thank you so much to both of you for all of your insights today. I don't know if there's other questions from the audience. Danny, I'll throw back to you.
Yeah, plenty of great questions. And if you've got any more, just throw them in the Q&A box and we'll get to them right now. So there's a couple of ones I think you answered, Kasia, in the talk just then, but we'll just go over them again. So this one from Miroslav's asking, is it possible to plan work for teams without having to plan for specific individuals?
No, the work is always planned by the assignee of the task. So whoever is assigned to the task, the capacity is calculated automatically for this person. And it sums up all the bookings from all the projects that the person is working on. So it shows you the capacity booked across all of the projects.
Very nice. And I was asking, I assume when you make changes on the capacity map, these are reflected in Jira?
Yes, exactly. This is reflected on the task, and you can also see it in portfolio. So for example, if you move the booking for later, you will see in the portfolio view if the issue, for example, from the hierarchy gets outside of the epic timeline or the initiative timeline, and you'll see this as a risk.
There's another question from the same person that came in whilst you were talking a bit about clockwork, and they're asking how are the financial calculations made?
Yes, so in terms of clockwork and the actual calculations made, so the calculations are made per work logs. We sum up all the work logs, all the time that has been logged on a task, and we then recalculate it based on the rate and cost set up in clockwork, and it's actually pulled out to portfolio as a additional field. It requires to have a budgeting permission because it's hard coded. You cannot see it without this specific permission, the data from Clockwork, and also if you don't have Clockwork installed.
Perfect. There's a few questions about other apps within the marketplace. Alex, maybe if I come to you to this, they're asking, how do you compare this product to other apps you can get in the marketplace? There's another one saying, how does this compare? Yeah, there's 2 or 3 questions asking the similar thing. So perhaps you
Yeah.
could comment on that.
So, I mean, the one thing I'll tell you is try them all, right? Like you want to, not every shoe's going to fit all, right? But the one thing that I will tell you, because I have tried them all, is usually it's the setup time. It's the overwhelmingness that I feel when I'm setting up another tool. I didn't feel any of that when I was setting your guys's up. Like I felt like I was able to just point where the work was and get started. Like it wasn't overly complicated. And the other one's like I'm lost in just the menus. There's so many options, so many configurations, so many settings, so many buttons because and it's like I just spin myself in a circle and I end up like never mind. I'll just go back to the spreadsheet, right? And so, yeah, I didn't feel that with your guys' app. So I think this is a huge part where you definitely want to check them out, see which one feels right to you. But this is definitely one of those ones where you're going to be able to come in and not feel overwhelmed because it's very intuitive, very easy to just jump in, point to where the work is, and then start.
Perfect. There's a good question about Agile at Scale, which I'll come to in a second. But just before I do, I've just launched a second poll. So if you could let us know your thoughts on this, this is how we'll follow up with you, whether or not you want a one-to-one live demo with Kasia, discuss a partnership, or just receive the recording and resources. Let us know in that poll, and we'll follow up in the next few days with that. Kasia, how about this one? They're asking, is this more of a traditional project portfolio management, or does this support real agile planning? What about agile at scale, like SAFe?
Yeah, it supports both traditional and the safe planning way, so it can be done in both ways.
Excellent. You mentioned that data is automatically synchronized to Jira. Is there a possibility to model what if scenarios in portfolio, i.e., to play around with multiple options or plan without having to change the data in Jira?
Not yet, but this is definitely on our roadmap. So in the next quarter, we'll be implementing also scenario planning.
Excellent. And whilst you
Yeah,
mentioned roadmap, I wanted to go on, Alex. Sorry.
no, and that's very important, right? The scenario planning, I think one of the things that I really like about your tool is that you don't have to push the
Yeah,
changes in. But I think one of the new features of that would be having the scenario so that you can opt to
yeah.
create alternative scenarios, especially since you can change the capacity of the user so easily, right? But yeah, I think you got to kind of pick and choose your battles. But I really do like the feature that on the plan that you are committed to, like the changes are instantaneous. Because some of the frustration I see on the Jira plan side is you come up with the perfect plan, then you forget to hit that magical blue button, and nobody got the plan, nobody got the memo. And so I really like that you can do that. So having that flexibility, I think, is going to be important.
Just on the roadmap, Kasia, you were talking before we went live about and we've almost gone a full hour without mentioning AI, so that must be a record now.
I mentioned it, I think.
You were talking beforehand about how you've started to implement certain robo features into Portfolio. Could you perhaps tell the audience a little bit about that?
Yeah, I didn't want to share it yet, but yeah, we started experimenting with Rovo some time ago, and we are planning on to deliver a solution that will help people to ask questions and get answers from the portfolio data within Atlassian. So, for example, asking if someone is available or who is the most available person in that time to take on the work. So that's the goal.
That was also
Excellent.
going to be one of my questions to you, Kasia, too, is there anything else on the roadmap that you're particularly excited about? And I think we've already kind of beaten you to the punch there, but is there anything else that you worth mentioning to people today?
I think this is the most exciting part because especially with this world where there's a lot of AI solution and so on, I think everyone is starting to get, to expect something different for any tool. We don't want to read the data and figure out stuff and look at some, complex graphs and so on. We want to ask questions and get the answers straight away. So I think that's going to be something that will shift
Yeah.
this
I,
space completely.
I would also add that like planning and organizing your team is a little bit more of an art too. So there's a lot of moving parts that come into figuring out priorities and deadlines and resources. And AI can definitely help, but at the end of the day, you still need to have a good pulse on what's actually happening and who's around, what executives want what are the expectations from the customer, right? Like AI can definitely help you, right? At least with the data ingestion, but at the end of the day, you still want somebody to have their finger on the pulse there to really make sure that it makes sense.
Are you saying AI won't replace humans, Alex?
I'm hoping they don't, because I still got to feed my children.
But it's also very important that Rovo, specifically in the context of Atlassian, it reads the data from your Confluence and Jira. So it also gets the context of your whole organization. And I think that's going to be life-changing.
Yeah, making the work easier is definitely a good thing, but you don't want to fully replace it.
I agree.
No.
Perfect. We're getting quite close to the hour, so perhaps we finish on this one, and then we'll have some sort of final comments. They're asking, does this app enable financial data so that we could do estimations by the year, budgeting cost 2025, actual cost 2025, for example? This is a huge problem, particularly in government companies, because no app can really do this easily, and no one wants to create custom fields in Jira each year.
Yeah, so we don't have that yet, but definitely that's something that we'll be looking closer to.
Perfect. So stay tuned. I think we will wrap up there. We've got some final comments. Claire, do you want to mention about us being Anaheim in well, it's only just over a month now?
I think there's some familiar faces here today and lots of new ones too, but just worth mentioning that we are going to be in Anaheim. We will be have our own booth over there. We don't know what number just yet, but you'll see a big Hero Coders logo. So please do drop by. We'd love to meet you. And if you're interested in any kind of one-on-one demo session during the event or even just a chat and a coffee or anything like that, we would really love to meet you there.
Perfect. And the three of us will all be there. Alex, you're also running a couple of events during the
Yeah,
week. Do
I'm
you want
gonna
to talk
be
about
there. I'm gonna be running around the expo, but the 2 days prior, so Monday and Tuesday, well, I guess Tuesday morning, I'm gonna be doing a 2-day conference. So Monday's gonna be very workshop heavy. So if y'all want to learn more about how to build robo agents, or maybe you want to learn how to code with Forge, or maybe you're interested, I'm doing a deep dive into portfolio program management. And so if you all want to get into that, or maybe from an ITSM perspective, we're gonna do like 6-hour workshops followed with 2 hours of I got 10 of the best Jira admins in the world, so you can ask them any question you want. And then on the Tuesday, we got 12 presentations on just how to build stuff, how to use things in the world of Atlassian and do something productive with the Atlassian tool. So basically, the way we're pitching is all the stuff you want to learn that you're not going to learn at team, come learn it before the conference starts. We have the cool sessions, but buildittogether.events is the website.
Perfect. And hopefully we'll see many of you there. Kasia, did you have any final thoughts? I'm going to share a couple of links in the chat. So I will share the marketplace link and also one other. Kasia, did you have any final comments before we wrap up?
I'm just very happy that you all attended. I can see there was a lot of people on this webinar, so I'm really happy about it. If you want to learn more about one of our products like Portfolio Clockwork or the checklist app, reach out to us through LinkedIn or through our website. We're always happy to help.
Perfect. And final thing, I think, is to thank the three of you for sharing a very good discussion today, and to everyone in the audience for joining us. Like I mentioned, there will be a follow-up in the next couple of days. We'll be publishing the recording to YouTube too, so stay tuned for that. And you'll see a survey that appears on your screen in a couple of minutes. So please share with us any feedback you've got to help us make these events better. I think that's all. Thank you very much, everyone.
And thanks to you, Danny, and to all the audience.
Thanks.
All righty. Have a great day, everyone. Take care.
Bye.